Welcome to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today, we got another video here where they head back to the streets asking Canadians questions. This is a hot button topic here. It's whether or not Canadian tax dollars should be given to Ukraine. I have a feeling I know what you guys are thinking on this. You guys already know, if you watch my channel, how I feel about this. I don't think any of our money should be given to Ukraine. We should just look, how much money have they given us? What do they give us? Have they given us big bags of lentils? Like, what do they give us? I get it, there's all that stuff going on, and you know what, some aid, sure, but it's like not just perpetuating an ongoing conflict for year after year. They have to sort that out. We don't need to be spending our hard-earned tax dollars over there. It's just, when we got people sleeping on the streets, we got people in tents, it's absolutely ridiculous. So let's see what the general public has to say. Here's the question: should Canada continue providing the same level of financial aid to Ukraine?
If we don't contain Russians, they will be more aggressive in the future. So at least we can do something now itself. Ukraine is getting defeated and the puppet government is put in Ukraine, and later it would be difficult for the West to, contain Russia. So
Canada should take care of the Canadians and people in Canada who is paying taxes, who is working hard, and who really needs the help. That we look at our country right now. We have so many homeless people on the street. We need to address that issue before we address in somebody else's country.
That's a very personal, opinionated question, but no, they should not. I would rather think that, okay, how much they have contributed towards Canada, in general, or what they have done for this nation. Yes, I do have sympathy for the people of Ukraine, but at the same time, other nations also exist in the world. They should also stand up and start contributing.
Absolutely not. No, and they should take care of our country first, our kids, our people, and people who live here in Canada.
They need to acknowledge our problems first.
Yeah. I think it's a fairly complicated subject that has a lot of history behind it, quite a bit of history behind it. I think that war was avoidable and was not necessary, and I think we should be focusing on diplomatic solutions.
I don't really think so, unless it's humanitarian. I think it's a lot more complicated than what's being portrayed. So basically we're taking sides right now, and I think we should be more on the realm of kind of trying to broker a peace is what I'd like to see. But
the reason why they don't broker peace is because Lockheed Martin, Boeing, all these big companies make tons of money from military spending. That's why they just brought in Sweden, they just brought in Finland into NATO, and now those countries have to use all those big American military contractors to provide all the jets and all that stuff. So it's really a big money-making thing. There's not the greatest incentive to have peace when it comes to those companies.
Well, I have Ukrainian heritage, so that's a big yes for me. But I think it would be regardless of what country was involved. I would hope that support is spread between countries evenly. But I think you have to support what's going on over there because it will eventually affect us.
Well, I mean, on the world stage, you got to make yourself look good, right? So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think we could use the money here in our own country. I mean, if we want to build up our military, we're giving money away.
I think so, yes. I'm just concerned with Russia's increasing power on the world stage, and I think that Canada should help Ukraine as much as possible because it's still ongoing. It never, stops, even though there's other conflicts going on. But I think, yeah, we should.
That's a real challenging question. I believe the latest figure is $3 billion. Canada should continue to aid Ukraine, but what are the long-term effects on Canada's social programs for its own citizens? That's what needs to be looked at. It needs to be a comprehensive solution that looks at the whole of Canadian involvement, again, in international peace and security operations.
I think history will teach us that if you fail to stand up to aggressors, people who believe that they can impose their will on other countries through military aggression, that it only leads to a wider escalation of the conflict. And I believe we fought 2 wars in the last 100 years on exactly those premises. So unless we want a repeat of World War II, I think NATO had better start doing some serious standing up to what is obviously unfounded military aggression in Europe.
We have a huge Ukrainian population here in Canada, and as well as Russian. And I mean, if money's going to fix it, fine. I'm not confident that money will fix that problem, though. So that's a difficult question to answer. Excuse me. I think that, yeah, maybe for a few more years, yes, and maybe finding, working on some kind of diplomatic solution with the powers that be might be prudent as well, in maybe stepping that up.
I think we need to be supporting them, and I would even include an early admission to NATO as a possibility, but that would put us in direct conflict and at war with Russia. But I think it's time to call Putin's bluff, because he's a complete liar. He doesn't care about Russia or Ukraine or anyone. He just cares about himself. That's why he has allies like Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un, who are also totalitarian wannabes.
Yeah, quite the array of characters on the street there. These episodes never seem to make their way out west. There's never anything in Alberta and BC. It's always just like kind of floating around Ottawa, to the left, to the right kind of thing. But I feel some of those people are uneducated in the situation. They don't realize that it's a big military spending, like money-making thing for these big companies. The United States is basically going bankrupt because of this, the taxpayers. Meanwhile, the big defense contractors are making hand over fist. So there's no real point to have this conflict that bounces back and forth, back and forth. If they want to just take it serious, then just roll in all of their stuff and just finish it up. Otherwise, make a peace deal. Like, enough and enough. We don't need years and years and years of this nonsense. Next up, we've got one more question here, which is in direct relation to Stephen Guilbeault, a couple weeks ago, saying there's no more spending for roads. So they went and asked people on the street about this. So here's a question: how do you feel about the federal government's decision to not invest in large-scale road projects?
Honestly, I think that infrastructure in general has been lacking in terms of investment with all governments for the past 50 years or so. So I think that, rail, roads, they all need to be renovated and rebuilt a lot of the time. So it's unfortunate to hear that not a lot of money is going to that when it should be.
Well, looking out on these roads, they're a disaster in Ottawa. And the trucker protest did not help with the trucks going round and round and round and round. I live in Quebec, so the bridge got destroyed because they were doing this loop. So I'm very disappointed with that line of thinking, because we need help.
The problem there is not the truckers, though. The problem is Trudeau. Let's just get real here. We're not blaming people standing up for freedom, sacrificing weeks of their time and energy to stand up for freedom. I don't like that take. That's not a good take. Why don't we point out Trudeau, the man destroying our country? Thank you very much.
I don't know. I think moving towards something that's a little greener, away from big roads, is important. But until we have the capacity to do that, like, Canada's a really big country. We need a lot of transport. We need highways, things like that. We need to invest in things like that. So that makes sense.
I agree with that. I think there's definitely talks about a greener country, but there's a lot of people up north that need those roads, and there's a lot of people who don't have the support that we have the ability being in an urban environment. So I think roads are important, and they should also be kind of a priority for people and communities up north that need food and resources that we have easily access to.
I think in a country this large, with the population base that we have, I don't know how you avoid large-scale transportation infrastructure. It's just, from the day we built the railroad from coast to coast, that's what we're about, that's what we need. I don't know, for me, there's a lot of infrastructure questions right now with the electrification of transport. So are you going to avoid that as well? Are you not going to be able to get to net zero because you can't put the money into the infrastructure that we need to electrify? So I think it's a complicated issue, and I wouldn't want to see us backing away from it, because I'm a firm believer that we can take that low carbon electricity and put it to good use in transportation.
I kind of think it's a good idea to invest in the large scale road projects, just because it helps with more travel. It's probably more efficient for transportation for goods and services.
I think these are knee-jerk reactions. They're not really planned. I'm actually from Alberta. And I am not conservative. I don't really buy into a lot of the politics, but I do understand when knee-jerk reactions are made by the feds in Ottawa, not accounting for the impact on different communities across the country, then yeah, certainly I'm concerned about that. But get what they're doing is just, it's not very thoughtful as it should be.
I think that's an environmental issue that they want to be on one side of an environmental issue. We obviously are going to still need roads, especially as more and more new Canadians come. They're going to be driving vehicles. So I think that they need to be more clear about exactly what they mean. The ministers seem to be kind of right and left, like on both sides of that issue. So I think that's just confusion that they need to clear up, because roads aren't going away anytime soon.
Well, there's Canada is such a vast place. It's such a stupid strategy to have. You have to spend so much money in traveling from point to point, and if you're working, you know, from province to province throughout Canada, the last thing that you need is that extra wear and tear and expense and damage to your vehicles because of road conditions. I think here in Sask we know, you know, just as well as any other province by the number of potholes and how quickly our roads fall apart because they're not built properly in the first place. So again, it's not a big win for the federal government to have that kind of attitude, I don't think.
I can see where they're going, because wanting to change how we think about travel. I would really like rails to be expanded, and a lot more public rail, via rail, but not cost prohibitive, and a lot more tracks. Like, I think it's crazy we don't have rail service from Regina to Saskatoon. And I think the reality is we have to maintain what we have, but I would rather see them put it into more public transportation and upgrading that.
So I was going to say the exact same thing as that lady. It's crazy that we don't have high-speed rail. That's like, she just talked rail in general. We should have high-speed rail. What we're looking at here is China in 2008 and China in 2020. So this is 4 years ago. Look how fast they developed their high-speed rail network. This isn't just normal rail. You've got, let's see down here. So blue is lines capable of speeds above 300 kilometers per hour. Newly built lines capable of 200 to 299, and then upgraded lines, other lines, and other, whatever, CRH service. The blue ones are the mega fast ones here, and then even the other ones are 200 to 299. Like, that's still crazy fast. I went on one going all the way across Taiwan at 300 kilometers an hour. It was wild. Like, it took a couple hours to go across the entire island here of Taiwan, the country of Taiwan. I'm going to anger China by saying that. It's a country. Taiwan's a country. It's a cool country, too. I like it. If we look at Canada, though, like in relation to China, look how much bigger it is. And they have all the high-speed rail. Like, we should at least have one line that goes all the way across. Then you can get to, you know, Calgary, and then one line that goes up to Edmonton. Same thing. You know, Saskatchewan here, you've got Regina, and then up to Saskatoon. It wouldn't even be that many, right? Like, you have a line that goes through Montreal, Ottawa, all the way up, and then goes down to Toronto, Hamilton, down to Detroit, or whatever, like all the way up to the coast. We should have high-speed rail, at least one main line that goes coast to coast, and then a couple auxiliary lines that go up the provinces. It'd be awesome if there's one that went right up to the Yukon or something. That probably won't happen just because of the population. Then again, we don't even have high-speed rail, period. There's a guy on TikTok who always talks about high-speed rail, the Edison Motors guy. And he's totally right. We should have it.
I feel okay with it. I think, you know, it seems like we have all the highways we need for now. I don't see that as a priority coming from the federal government right now. I heard it said that we may need to walk between Sussex and Moncton, and that it would take 17 hours, and that's hilarious to me. And I do think that there's some provincial responsibility for road development. So I'm not too worried about that. I don't think it's a priority for New Brunswick.
Personally, I think we really should focus on our existing infrastructure to maintain what we have. But certainly we can't hide from growth and need, and wherever there's need for roadways for safe passage, that should be looked at.
I think that's a rather poor idea. Right now, we've got an aging infrastructure all across Canada, whether it be bridges, roads, sewer systems across Canada. We need to invest deeply to make sure that our infrastructure is going to be going well for the next generation. Because let's face it, we're to the point now where our infrastructure is starting to come down in various aspects.
There you have it. The people speaking on road infrastructure. Pretty much a kind of a 50-50 mixed bag on that one. I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous to be bringing so many immigrants and not expanding the road network. There should be foresight to be like, oh, we should be getting in high-speed rail or some sort of Autobahn system that's like some major highway that goes all the way across Canada at really fast speeds. We just don't, we don't have visionary thinkers and leaders in our country. We have bonehead losers. So thus, that's why our country is in such bad state. But we all know this. They're getting rich off our backs, and, you know, whining and dining. Justin Trudeau always staying at the fanciest, most expensive restaurants, tells us we need to pay the carbon tax, jumps in a jet, goes down somewhere, burns a whole bunch of tons of fuel. Uh-oh, that problem with that plane. Better call in the second plane, burning just ungodly amounts of fuel just to have his vacation. Really, these questions we shouldn't even think about for right now until we get this loser out of power. Once Pierre Poilievre comes in, then it's something to really take a look at with an actual leader in power. So, and I don't think Poilievre is going to shy away from building up the infrastructure and also limiting the immigrations, which will fix two problems at once there. So if you guys want to join, I have a Facebook group that I started just as a way to share if there's any sort of things that pop up and people want to share them, they want to get more exposure on them. It's another place to organize what's going on in Canada, as this platform here is a way for me to deliver it. It's not a great way to share things back and forth. If you want to join that FB group, I will link it up down below. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. I greatly appreciate it. If you want to check out some merch, that'll be linked in the YouTube shelf there. Stay warm, stay fed. I'll see you guys in the next one.